Great evening, beautiful people. It's Sunday evening, and you guys are here with us. Hey, it's been a long time since I've seen y'all. Great evening. Welcome to Boss Moves, our fourth episode right now. Before we forge ahead, this is a critically important topic that we are discussing tonight, and everybody that you know needs to be on this live. So do us a favor, go ahead and hit share. Go ahead and like this. We want as many people as possible to be on tonight. We have a spectacular guest who is the perfect person to talk about literacy tonight, joining us in just a moment. But we want you guys to go ahead and get this party started with us by sharing the video or tagging a few of your friends below. Remember, this is not just for educators. This is for every single person possible, right? Because literacy is a matter of social justice. If we want to really lean into the topic tonight, it's so very important that each and every one of us that are living, breathing beings, that we're continuing to challenge ourselves and our knowledge. So it's so very important that we talk about this from the perspective of it's a family affair tonight. So great evening. Do us a favor. Go ahead. You guys know how we get started. Drop a great evening. We want to know you're here. We want to see who is here with us live tonight. There is nothing like being in the space with you fellow boss kings and queens. So go ahead and drop in those comments. Great evening. And we're getting the party started. Go ahead and tell us why you're telling us great evening and where you're from. What's in your cup? And y'all look at this little cute cup. One of my viewers and supporters sent this to me, a fellow queen. She said, we know you love mugs. So she gave me this in the cutest little bag a couple of Sundays ago. So thank you to that sweet sister who thought enough of me to share my love of mugs and tea. So again, drop the great evening, say hello, share this video. We are going to go ahead and get this party started. Again, what's in your cup this afternoon? You got some tea or coffee? What do you have in there, folks? Tea or coffee today? I have tea, and I will share with you. I have a new tea that I'm trying. It's a blueberry hibiscus tonight. It's what I have in my cup. What do you have in yours? What's in your cup tonight, folks? Blueberry hibiscus is what I'm drinking. Again, drop in the chat. Great evening. Hello. Tell us where you're from. We are so excited to have you guys here. And again, there's always a slight lag. So again, humor us, if you will. Drop that in there. But we're going to go and get the party started. I'm going to bring on my guest. Great evening, Dr. Sutton.
Great evening. Hi, everyone.
How are you doing today?
I am doing amazingly well.
I love it. I love it. Y'all keep dropping in the comments for us. Drop your great evening. Drop those hellos. Tell us where you're from. And of course, tell us what are you drinking tonight? What's in your cup? Let me tell you guys a little bit about this amazing boss educator who is on the screen with me tonight. Dr. LeKeisha Sutton's passion for education is grounded in her desire to see all students. And let me say that one more time. All. ALL means all, and that's exactly what this lady means. All students achieve their academic potential. She believes that schools should be a safe place, amen, where educators provide a challenging and engaging educational opportunities for all students. She additionally believes that frequent changes to instructional strategies should be made based on various measures, and that the education of all students is not only the responsibility of the school. Let me sit back in my seat. That's why I said this is a relevant conversation for everybody today. It's not just the responsibility of the school, but a collective approach to learning is vital in ensuring that all students attain the knowledge and the skills needed to proficiently read, write, and problem solve. Dr. Sutton is a 24-year. Did you hear me, Dr. Sutton? Is that correct? 24.
24.
That means you got enough bank time. She can go home, y'all. Which means you know she really loves what she is doing because she is hitting the ground every day, right?
Right.
Dr. Sutton is a 24-year educator who has experience as an instructional assistant, a teacher, district support staff, assistant principal, turnaround principal, and school improvement leadership coach. And may I add, that is at the state level. Great evening one more time, Dr. Sutton.
Great evening, Dr. Nelson. How are you doing?
I am
And let
ready.
me just say there is tea in my cup.
Oh,
I
tea.
love herbal
Yes.
lemon tea, and I had a cup right before we logged on tonight.
I love it. There is nothing like it. And for somebody like me, that I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I have found that there are some teas that give you just as much of a boost, right? As some of that coffee does, and it's better for you. So we hope that everyone on this live, go ahead and drop the great evening for us. We hope that you all have had an amazing week. You've had a time to engage in some self-care today, and that you have also shared this video. Great evening from Nova Scotia. Ice water for me. I see you.
Yes.
We have friends all over, and we are so grateful for our friends from everywhere. All right, son, we're going to jump right on in. When we think literacy, what comes to your mind when you hear and you see the word literacy? What comes to your mind?
So, when I think literacy, um, you said social justice. I think about literacy for all, right?
Absolutely.
So again, all and every student. And I think about the necessity of being literate to be successful, right? So again, like you said, it is a family affair. It is a responsibility not only of educators,
Yes.
but also of community members to foster a love of reading, writing, problem solving, because literacy is not only, we always think about literacy and reading, but it's also, some mathematical literacy skills that students need as well. So,
Absolutely,
yes.
absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I said, it's so relevant that everybody jump on this live tonight, because it's not just about our schools pressing the gas with literacy. And we know that we do. And I'm so very proud to say that I live in Mississippi. I am from Mississippi. I am here. And I am so, so, so extremely proud of the amazing work that has been done in our state to make sure that our students are being provided with the most equitable opportunities. We've closed so many disparities over the last couple of years, and NAEP shows that, right? Our national data, state data shows that our State Department and our folks who are on the ground every day in our schools, we're doing the work, right, to make sure that more of our students and all of our students are being provided with what they need to be literate. But again, it's so much bigger than just, are you reading? Because it's about, how are you interpreting and comprehending the world around you, taking in things and being able to push it back out? Which is why, again, I say it is a social justice matter. Let me tell you some stats for my folks, and make sure you've shared the video. Make sure you have shared this video, folks. Stats show that overall, in communities where there are lower literacy rates, they are associated with higher unemployment. Let me say that again. We're talking about it being bigger than just are the kids reading in school. What's happening around the communities where we are not making sure that our students are ready to read, right? So it's a community issue. It's a village issue. It's a family affair. That's why I say that, right? So lower literacy rates are associated with higher unemployment rates, with poorer health conditions, let me say that again, and then decreased civic engagement. So it's going to take each and every one of us doing our due diligence to make sure that literacy is important, and it's supported in every school, but it's bigger than the school. What are we doing in our communities? And so that's what we're talking about tonight. She said, yes, comprehension is so essential. Some people get it in the thing about fluency, right? We can get into the semantics and the technicalities of literacy, but that's not necessarily what we're doing tonight. But sometimes people just associate it with that, but it's bigger than that. It's about how we comprehending the world around us, like using what we have and comprehending the world. So again, we appreciate that. So let's jump right in. I have heard, and this will put me on my soapbox. People know that when it comes to culture, I am the culture queen, right? That's my area. And I am so privileged to support organizations, schools all over everywhere in transforming culture so that it's a place that everybody's thriving, right? But this is another one that I have to be careful, because my blood will boil And I get the feeling the way as the kids would say. But Dr. Sutton, how many times have you heard this one that it's a myth that kids won't read, right? How
Yes.
many times have you heard people say these children just won't read, or these people won't read? Talk to me about your thoughts and your response to that.
So, when I hear people saying that kids won't read, they don't read, my question is,
Oh,
are
uh-oh.
you exposing them to text books that they're interested in?
Mm,
Right?
mm,
So, even as you think of us as adults reading for pleasure, how often do we read something that we're not interested in?
mhm.
How often do we pick up a book that does not pique our interest, may not align to our values, may not align to our experiences,
Yeah.
right? So when we're thinking about, maybe a student who is not interested in reading,
Mm,
how can we make some shifts to ensure that what we provide those students as reading options, at least one of those options aligns to something that piques their interest, right?
absolutely.
So, our boys like cars and dinosaurs. That might not be the primary reading for the week, but at home, in our community, within our school libraries, how can we ensure that we have options for students that
Mhm.
align to their interests, right? We have
Absolutely.
little girls who are interested in being cosmetologists, hair. How often are they exposed to books, texts that aligns to those interests?
I think that's so important what you just brought up. And, it's Black History Month. All right.
Yes,
Let's talk about it. All right. Representation matters,
yes,
especially for those of us that are working in schools that are predominantly Black and brown students. I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to those that are on tonight and that will go back. And if you're joining in and listen to this later, check your library. Check your own classroom library and go down, walk down the hallway, turn to the left, right, 3 3/4. Go in the library and see if you have 50% of your student population is Black and brown. What does that look like in the library? I want to challenge you, and I'm all about that. Like I said, this is one of those that I have to be careful because I'll get kicked out of rooms, Dr. Sutton, talking about literacy. I
yes,
get kicked out of the room with that
yes,
because I just know the transformative power, right? There was a great book that I love to read, and it clearly says that my people are destroyed from a lack of knowledge. And let's talk quickly Black history. It's no secret that our ancestors had to fight for the right to read, to learn to read. Yet think about how many of us pass by libraries and throw books out the window, right? So absolutely it's a matter of social justice and representation matters. So as you just said, how is it that we're expecting our students to do something that we won't do? One
right,
of my core values has always been as an educator is to walk the talk.
right,
People are watching what we are doing
yes,
it's speaking 1,000 times louder than what we are saying. So y'all type that in the chat for us. Walk the talk. Even as
walk the
we're talking
talk,
about literacy and getting students to read, and again, it's not just students. What about your family members? When is the
yeah,
last time, as a family, we
correct,
had a conversation about what we're reading? But again, it's bigger than just reading. It's about how we comprehending the world around us. Maybe it's you take the time to discuss and comprehend through the game that you just watched, right? Because we can
yeah,
get into state standards and talk about how even comparing text, right, to media, different types of media. But again, walking the talk as we're talking about uh, getting students to read, and not just students, because we have reluctant adult learners too.
yes.
One of the things that Sutton talked to me about this, how can we evolve as adults if we aren't really willing and ready to soak in new knowledge? What are your thoughts on that one? How can you evolve as a boss if you aren't willing to challenge your own thinking and your own set of knowledge that you have?
So I think that's very difficult, right?
Yeah,
Because we're lifelong learners,
lifelong.
right? I believe iron sharpens iron. So
Absolutely.
I have to read, research, and be, up on the latest research knowledge things are out there, to make sure that I'm a better educator. Not
Absolutely.
only an educator, a better parent, a better
Yes.
person,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
A better supporter. So we cannot be hesitant and we
Yes.
cannot be reluctant in building our own knowledge and skills, right? We have to continue to be lifelong learners. You also said something that was very profound about knowledge, and just as a family affair, building the knowledge of our students, and you kind of linked it to, again, the relevance, right? That is a very, very vital piece, as well as we build this literacy, just that knowledge building. So exposure for our students, right?
Exposure.
So
Yes.
so if they don't know, how can I, as a family, expose them to a content or a concept in real life, and then link that to some type of book or passage, right? So we have to do both, right? So as we're building our knowledge, guess what? As an educator, I have some exposure. Somebody builds some knowledge for me, and it's more relevant. I can see it more when
Absolutely.
I read text, right? So you made some very, very great connections this afternoon between the knowledge building and the relevance.
Absolutely. So let's get into some practical tips because I'm all about that.
Absolutely.
You are Dr. Sutton. I am Dr. Nelson. You
Yes.
got 24 years. I got 21. Between the two
Let's
of
go.
us, right?
4 and 5. Let's go.
But I'm saying that to say that we can get into some stats, we can talk all of those things, but at the end of the day, it is critically important for me in my lane, and I know you and yours, to give people things that they actually can use, right? We can sit here and talk stats all day, but let's talk some practical things that as we are trying to build a level of literacy within our families and again within our communities. I'm talking to the barbershop owners out there. That's why I said tag. Matter of fact, y'all tag a barbershop owner in tag a few of them in here. Tag a few of the ladies that do hair right here. Tag some churches, right? Because talking about Black history and talking about reading and talking about activating the village, right? It's so critically important that we understand that there is something that we all can do to help our communities become more literate. It's very important. So again, let's jump right on in. What can we do? So one of the things that we talked about, and we talked very briefly, y'all, these are never scripted. No, the shows are never scripted. We jumped on in, right? But creating a family routine and ritual around reading. So one of the things that, Tyler and we do is we have Barnes and Noble runs. We do. And you mentioned earlier about sometimes we want to make students only read things that we want them to read, right? But it's so critically important that we also give them opportunity to read things that they want to read. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were in, and I always tell Tyler, go grab you something, right? And so he grabbed something that he knew he's in a school that does accelerated reader, right? So he grabbed something for that, but he still loves graphic novels. I have an 11-year-old boy. He is highly intelligent. He absolutely loves graphic novels. And so they're well below his actual reading level, right? Tyler don't but it would be ill will of me as I am helping to cultivate a level of reading for him to just say, go put that back because you won't get AR points for it, right? Because he's so interested in it. Get it? Fine. And so it's very important. How do we do that, right? But again, it goes back to building relationships. And so this is for my educators. This is for my parents. This is for the barbershop, the church, and everybody. Do you really have a true relationship that we know what our babies and what our communities are even interested in to get them connected with those things, right? So it's very, very important. I like that. Anne says reading recipes with your child to make food. She's leaning into one of our other tips. Absolutely, right? So talking about creating a family routine. So yeah, that's something that we do. We also, and again, our schedules are crazy, y'all. We just got out the soccer field a couple of hours ago. 2 days straight, right? And I know you just left something. So I would love to say that we read every day for 30 minutes. That would be a lie, right? Because life is happening. But we do have dedicated times, at least 3 to 4 times a week, that we both are reading. And guess what? Tyler holds me accountable. The other day, we were reading. I said, all right, Tyler, it's time to read. He came in. He laid across the bed. Hey, I had my phone. Y'all, I had something on my phone. I read. He said, Mama, where your book at?
Yes.
I was reading something. I put it out. Let me get my novel too. Let me get mine too, right? And so creating a family routine and rituals around that. What are your thoughts on that? Creating a family routine and rituals around reading.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly that as a tip. And as tip number one, because we have rituals and routines around everything in our home,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
how often do we have rituals and routines around academic priorities or
Ooh, ooh,
around
wait,
building
wait,
knowledge?
wait. Say it again. That's y'all. Y'all. We might need to everybody. We might need to text that one in the chat. How many? Say it again, because I'm gonna type it in. Because that's one you just did this to me. Come on with
Yeah,
it.
so we have rituals and routines for everything in our homes most times, right? So how often have we developed or do we have rituals and routines for academic priorities, right?
I love
Consistent.
it. All right, y'all type that in the chat and make sure you've shared this video. Again, it's very, very
Absolutely.
important. We're talking literacy. Everybody that you've tagged in, yes. We have a viewer that says creating book projects together as a
Awesome.
family, right?
Yes.
And not just y'all when it's time for the book fair or for the reading
Correct.
project, right?
Correct.
And one time a year that everybody's like, come to work the next day and say, I did the reading project last night,
Right.
not the child, because it was midnight and it was
Right.
11 p.m. when they told you and it was due the next day.
Correct.
But
Correct.
how are we
Or
truly creating routines around that? Something else that I strongly encourage reading nooks, even, right? Do you have a dedicated space in your house that you guys routinely get together, just like you do for dinner? And I'm challenging you guys. Are you actually sitting down to have dinner with your folks a couple of days a week? Again, life happens. And so I get that. But a couple of days a week, we got to get back to building a community.
yes.
You got
Yes.
to get back to sitting and eating and talking,
Yes.
right? Because the other piece of literacy is speaking,
Conversations. Correct.
conversation, making sure
Correct.
that we get back to that. So, again, tip number one was create a family routine and ritual around reading. And
Yes.
I'm not saying go tomorrow and tell your children that the ladies on the screen said you got to sit here for an hour and read. Don't do that, right?
Right.
We know real habits are created in micro actions at a time, right? So if that's not been your routine for your family, start with 10 minutes. Start with 10 minutes one day and then go from there.
And
Right?
I agree with that. Do it in doable chunks because we
Doable
we
chunks.
don't want it to feel like it's a punishment for your kids either, right? So we
Right.
do want to foster that love, and
I
we
think
know
that
that we
is
have
so
to do it, like you said, in doable chunks, small increments of time.
And think about it again, it's Black history. Like I keep going back to that. Reading, our folks, our forefathers were punished for it. Do you hear me what I'm saying? That's not what we're trying to create in 2024 is kids feel like we're punishing them for reading. It's a privilege, right? And it's a pleasure. So
Correct.
y'all type that in. It's a privilege and a pleasure to
Mhm.
read. Type that in. That's a good one right there, Dr. Sue.
It's a privilege
It's
and
a
a pleasure.
privilege and a pleasure. It should be a privilege and a pleasure to
Yes.
engage in reading. And that's why I say we want to cultivate a love for it. A
Yes.
love for it. So
Yes.
again, that was tip one was creating the family routine and structure. Here we go. Tip two, and we've kind of intertwined this in
We
already.
have. Yes.
Connecting interest with reading. What are
Yes.
your thoughts on that one, Dr. Sutton?
Yes, vitally important, right? To align reading with interests, especially if we're thinking about doing these things at home and within the community. So you talked about the barber shop, you talked about the beauty shop. Now, our braiders,
Yeah,
so what are the opportunities to have books in those spaces that we know that our clients or the students that are or the children that are coming there have a they have interest in those things, right?
absolutely.
I think that fosters that love of reading. It also supports what they're learning in school, and they don't feel like it's a punishment. They feel, reading for pleasure.
Right.
Some things that they really really like to read.
I want to ask you guys one more time because you are helping us today to spread the good stuff. That's what we're doing. Make sure that you have liked and shared this video and tagged a few of your community leaders, even in this book, talking about the interest, right? And making sure that we also are tying in interest. I will share with you as we're talking about Black boys. A lot of times we miss the mark on connecting them. Jason Reynolds is absolutely. Let me see. Can I get it in there? Y'all know I'm an old lady. There we go. Jason Reynolds is a phenomenal writer. He is a Black author who does a phenomenal job of writing texts that our young guys absolutely love. He has a lot of texts that are linked to sports, and the way that he writes is absolutely amazing. He also has a lot of chapters. They are chapter books that are in sequence, right? And so I always support that, right? We always support that. So again, if you have young boys who you're struggling to get them to read, again, Jason Reynolds, pull him up. He has a whole bunch of books and he is really, really good. He sucks our boys in, and it's an amazing thing to watch, right? So again, that's one of our authors that we strongly encourage you check out, a Black author for Black boys. Here we go, tip 3, and we're almost at the end, Sutton. Tip 3, creating experiences. And again, we've talked about this. It's been a good gumbo tonight. You know, I love cooking. Creating experiences around reading. What are your thoughts on that for the people that are on with us tonight? Creating, and y'all type that one in. Tip 3, type it in. Let's create experiences around reading. Let's create experiences around reading. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Sutton?
I think we kind of spoken about that. Those relevant experiences for students are so vital, right? Just think about a student reading something about a subway and they've never ridden on a subway. Right. They think about students, we have students, they read a book about a zoo, but they've never been to the zoo. So creating an experience for a student, even if you have or a child in the community or your personal child, even if you have to bring that experience to them,
absolutely,
will make the reading more relevant for them, right? Because they building that knowledge around that concept, allowing them to experience it, will provide an opportunity for them to have a greater understanding and comprehension of the reading when they're reading, or of the text when they're reading. So experiences are crucial, right? Yeah. For students, because it's very hard for me to build this mental picture in my head of my reading if I have no prior knowledge or no experience around what I'm reading.
So it's critically important, and she's noting that we must build background knowledge even with our reading. And I want to just get you to share some of the most interesting or exciting things that you've done. And y'all, she has an amazing, expansive experience in elementary education. The elementary folks do the best job with creating experiences. I'll share with you as a middle level and secondary, one of the things that we used to do that absolutely just was always mind blowing, and people would be like, it was like a big deal to get in the principal's book club of the month, right? And so we would order a highly engaging text. We would get enough copies between 30 to 50, depending on where we were. And students it was almost like a run to we want to get in this month, right? Because we created experiences around them. I'll never forget one of the books that we read was With the Fire on High, right? And it talked about this young girl who was really good with cooking, and she had experienced life, but she was really good with cooking. Y'all, we had one of our local chefs to come in and bring in some authentic jerk food as we were having our book club conversations and chats. And the students always knew, my scholars knew, it was going to be an experience around the book, right? And so I think that, like you just said, especially when we're talking about students who are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, don't always have the opportunity as of yet, right, to travel to Disney or travel to all of these places. It becomes our responsibility even more so to create and build experiences around reading and around literacy for them. So what are some of the other exciting things that you have done or you experienced throughout your career around reading that other people can do in their homes, in the school, in the church, in the community? Again, because that's what this is all about tonight. Make sure you have liked and shared this video. We appreciate you guys so very much for sharing the good stuff.
So a couple of things. I was just talking to my sister the other day, and I told her just kind of about some of the experiences. I was at an expo yesterday. I met a student, or I reconnected with a student that I taught in 1st and 3rd grade. And I was just talking to her about some of our experiences. And one of the things that I did just as a teacher to begin this journey in education and to foster the love of reading and literacy, we did a lot on thematic units, right? So, I mean, my students had never seen a dinosaur in person, nor have I, and I don't want them to, right? That's gonna be a problem.
That's gonna be a problem.
They've never been to space, right? And we know that they may not ever go to space.
Right.
So we created those experiences in our classroom, on the hallway, blacked it out, students, um, and we connected that with text, right?
Yes.
So they
Yes.
got a chance to walk down the halls with the black lights, or they got a chance to walk down the hall and we had the smoke machines and makeshift volcanoes to bring an experience to them to
Yes.
connect it with text. The community is also important. As a principal, I would tap into my community members anytime that I had a school event, because I am going to connect it with literacy. I'm going to connect it with something academic.
Yes.
So if we had a block party, in order for you to engage in all these fun things, you may have had to come to the table and get you a book, right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
need to come to the table and get something academic.
Yes.
So that's even one of my challenges with our community members. What are your opportunities to support a school near you with ensuring that students have, access, right?
Access. Yes.
Access to books
Yes.
that they're interested in. So
That's
that's
very
a challenge.
important.
Yes.
That is so
Absolutely.
critically important. And what you just said was one of the reasons that I don't know if you guys have seen, they call the tiny libraries, where in the communities, in random places, you will see just a little box or a little big mailbox that has a whole bunch of books in there. And so I want to challenge you guys again. I am challenging everybody with a business. All of our churches, we need to build libraries
Yes.
that are reflective of our diverse communities. Let me say that again. We are the two doctors on here challenging we want, because again, as I started with, it's a social justice issue.
Right.
We are illiterate. It puts us at a disadvantage for everything in our lives.
Correct.
And if we're forging ahead, we want to eliminate those disparities, because we know that our students, our community we are so capable, right? And type this in the chat, everybody. My evolution requires my reading. It requires me to read. It requires me to act. It requires me to be more progressively literate. So again, my evolution is going to require me to read. We got to continue to build our knowledge. So again, type that in the chat very quickly. You have been amazing, Dr. Sutton. And I think we are going to let's give the folks this challenge. Here we go.
Let's challenge.
Everybody, every family that's on this call, and everyone that's going to go back and listen. Because again, charity, it all starts in the house. Discipline, it starts in the house. Education, it starts in the home. So I want to challenge everyone to do the 10 by 10 over the next 10 days, right? Make sure that because again, we're going to walk this thing. We're going to walk the talk as it relates to literacy. Make sure that over the next 10 days that you are intentionally setting aside 10 minutes to read something. Let me say that again. 10 minutes, the next 10 days. Yes. To read something. If you're going to join the challenge, drop it in the chat. I'm joining the 10 by 10. I'm joining the 10 by 10. Come on with it. We need you guys to join us, because again, our communities are depending on it. Speaking of, let me share some other books that are by Black authors, okay? That are amazingly reflective of Black and brown students. I shared with you Jason Reynolds. This particular one was Ghost, but again, there's a whole series, and I love series of his books that are great for our boys. Talking about our littles, this is a brand new one that just came out by Vashti Harrison. And y'all, I kind of teared up reading this one, but it is such a beautiful picture book that is speaking to our differences and how we as a people have engaged in adultification of Black girls. Like, we want to make them be grown, or not just Black girls, kids that are bigger in size. Yeah. We'll say things like, this is serious. You so big, you should know better. Yeah. To kids. But this is a beautifully written book about self-love and how freeing it could be. And it's a brand new one by a Black author. She is a New York Times bestseller, Vashti Harrison. Again, the name of the book is Big. I actually got this one for my niece. Miss Carla girl. I told you the skin I'm in. Did I talk about the skin I'm in?
No,
Wait a minute, Sutton.
you have not.
Wait a minute. I actually had to go to Barnes and Nobles today to pick this one back up because every time I get a copy, I give it to somebody.
Okay.
I absolutely love the skin I'm in. It's by Sharon Flake. If you have middle school girls or a little bit younger that are struggling to fit in, struggling with peer pressure, some bullying, this is a phenomenal book to read with them. Even as an adult, this is when even my adults, I want to challenge you to grab this one. And every chance I get, I am passing this book out to girls because it's so well written that they absolutely understand. Y'all see, I had to go get it. And they actually had it in stock. This is actually the 20th edition of this book. So it's really old, but it's still so relevant. It's still so real. So this one was, again, The Skin I'm In by Sharon Flake. And I am sharing with you guys a wide variety of books. Now, this is another new one. It's called The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. I actually just got this one to start reading. It is actually Barnes and Noble's Book of the Year.
Okay.
Black author. I have read one of his other books called Deacon King Kong, and it's really good. So I have high expectations for this one. But again, this one is actually a murder mystery, but it speaks to the heroic manner of community. It speaks to community. So I'm excited to jump in this one. Let's say you're saying I'm an educator. I need something to read, y'all. I'm always Principal Kafele. As a matter of fact, I have all of his over there, but the one that I probably should have picked up to say was his last book about equity. The Equity 50 is another great one for you guys that are in education. And so I just shared some fiction. Let me share some nonfiction. And this one, Sutton, might make some eyes. Okay, Red Lip Theology by Candace Marie Benbow, who actually is a minister. But this is a very thought-provoking book, especially for those of us who are in the Bible Belt. You got on red lipstick. What kind of lip? I think everybody needs a red lip now. We're getting into Fashion Tip Friday. What kind of red lip do you have on? That is gorgeous.
So this is a matte lip color, liquid matte.
Liquid matte. All right. Listen, folks, it has been an absolute pleasure to hang out with you guys this afternoon. Drop right now in the chat. What's your one takeaway from tonight? Y'all know we are school teachers. We are still at our heart school teachers. What is one takeaway from our time tonight talking about literacy? What is your one takeaway for tonight? Son, what do you want to challenge the people? What do you want to say your closing thoughts for tonight about literacy?
Literacy, let me just say that the community and the family, they're the first teachers for the students that we receive in schools, right?
Yeah.
So as a family and as a community, we can really begin to set the expectation and foster the love of literacy for our students, right? So we start there. So that may be reading to your child as babies. I mean, just begin that process. The hard books that they can hold, flip the pages, they can touch them, rub them for the sensory. So we can begin there, right? We can also, begin the process, as you said, of demonstrating what a good reader is, right? So reading with our children, reading to our children, and to foster comprehension, just ask them questions about what they're reading.
Absolutely.
Right? So as they're reading, what's the title? What do you think about the book? What's your opinion? If you would change something in the book, what would it be? Right? Because we do want students to not only be able to comprehend, we want them to let them know it's okay to have an opinion.
Yes.
And there's a way that they can communicate that. And we want to foster them being authors. So, if you would change it, if it's something that you don't like and you would change, what would that be? So I think just the challenge is leading by example, talking to them, talking to our kids and our students, and challenging them to, have an opinion.
Yes.
Communicating that opinion and knowing that's okay. And then, if you were the author, because you can be that.
Yes.
What would that, based on your opinion, what could that look like?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that you just said speaks to the importance of reading. It exposes us to worlds that we can never see. And
Correct.
the thing about exposure is with our students, after we expose them to the possibilities,
Right.
they then, if I can see it, I can believe it. If
Correct.
I can believe it, I can be it.
Correct.
And so that's what literacy is all about, folks.
It
We have
is.
thoroughly enjoyed you tonight. Make sure that even after we end this, that you have shared this video, that you are challenging yourself, your
Correct.
family members, and the community to tag in, because literacy is most definitely a family affair. And listen, before I get off, you guys know we have our big boss retreat coming up this summer, and we want everybody can't be there. I can't say that, right? Because it's an exclusive event. So there will not be space for everyone. But for those of you that are interested, the very selective few that will make it, and we would love to have you. And also know that if you need a speaker to come support you in your work, in your school, in your organization, simply reach out to us by sending an email to contact@bosseducator.com. Y'all know how we end. Drop B boss. We making boss moves. So drop I'm making boss moves this week in the text. Go ahead and drop it there. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys tonight, and we will see you all next week. Thank you again, Dr. Sutton. It has been
A pleasure.
Pleasure to have you. Y'all be boss. Tell them be boss, Dr.
Be boss.
Boss. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.